Makes it look godly.
Let me see if I can set it up for you here. What you got?
Is that good?
That's very good.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to stand up. It does have a tripod somewhere.
Can we hang it from? Is there a string or something on it?
Okay, guys, how's everybody doing today?
Doing good.
Thanks for joining us here at this short session. So this is a 2-hour presentation. So I will probably I will try not to cram because we'll just get through what we can. Because yeah, I've done that and it's not fun. So yeah, this is a Secret Space Program 101, and my name is James Rink with Super Soldier Talk. And I was utilized in the Secret Space Program, and chances are there's probably everyone here that was in this room has probably been part of the SSP. So I also have.
Hi, my name is Angel Tchonev, and I'm a multidimensional healer as well as a contactee. I've been in several of the programs in different timelines: the Super Soldier Program, Secret Space Program. As well as I travel, I can consciously bilocate to a version of myself that's currently on a Pleiadian starship. And today we're going to talk about more in depth about those programs, the implications, as well as all the different things that are going on in the world with the programs.
ABC TV, welcome, guys.
All right, Alphabet. Thanks for coming out here today.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. So, in the future, SSP disclosure will be mainstream news, and the crazy things that you hear here today will be known to the public. So, you guys got a lot of work to do in the future. So, hopefully, your Black Rock will allow you to do that soon enough. But, all right, guys. So. We're going to start off with this slide here. This is the Cabal One World Order. So folks, we know that apparently there is a Cabal that runs this planet, but what we're taught is that yes, there's this hierarchy with the top of the pyramid and the eye is there, but what we're not really taught is that there's a whole other power structure behind all this, and I'm going to skip a few slides. I know maybe you wanted to read all of them, but this is a 2-hour presentation, so. But yeah, so we have the name, our multiverse here is, the name of our multiverse is Orcus, and it contains 621 trillion universes under Archangel Ariel. So 100 billion years ago was a mythical reality was created called Hispania, a realm which contained magic similar to what we see in our mythos. So there are 16 worlds in our multiverse, as seen in this British crop circle here, with Earth in the center, and we are seeking to join the magical realm. But yeah. So let's, let's just go more to SSP. So we'll skip some of the multiverse. So yeah, who here knows what Tartaria is? We've got maybe a couple hands here. So Tartaria, Tartaria is a region just north of China, which contained giants. So they actually built the Great Wall of Tartaria. It's not China. They were giants about 9 feet tall, and they existed there to around the year 1814, when their memories were wiped from our consciousness. They actually wiped memories of the entire planet. So there are structures all over the world which looks like it could occupy, for a giant could go inside these buildings, like 9 foot tall doorways and certain types of architecture which we're not really able to recreate. So this type of technology from ancient Atlantis still existed here on planet Earth up to around the year 1814. Angel, do you have any information on Tartaria you'd like to share?
So I'm originally from Bulgaria, and there's been many different skeletons found in that area of giants, and I've actually visited some of the sites, and there's a lot of ancient tribes in that area, such as the Thracians, who are direct descendants of the Atlanteans. And a lot of that has been hidden from us for obvious reasons, because that will get people to ask a lot of questions about who we are, where we came from, what the truth is, and the powers that be don't want us to know that. So, it's things, events and talks like this that allow us to remember, and as we're talking, just be open to receive activation of your memories as well, because a lot of things will come through.
Okay. Oh,
I
well,
just had a quick question for Angel. How tall are these giants? Like
Huge.
skeletons, like how big?
So they found ones.
repeat the question.
The question is, how tall are the giant beings? And from my experience, I've seen ones around 9 feet, up to 11 feet, 11, 12 feet, 13. And there's a lot of them have elongated skulls. Some of them are not human, and they're just a different DNA, totally different species.
Okay, so we're gonna have to hold questions. So this is a 2-hour presentation, and we don't even have time for questions. But what I will say is that within planet Earth, it's hollow, and there's multiple realms within realms, and these are what are called the Titans. There's 3 different types of Titans. There's one that's 300 foot tall, there's one that's 30 foot tall, and there's one that's 10 foot tall, or 9 to 10 foot tall. So there was a war around 1814 between the different Titans, and then planet Earth was brought into it, and there was mud floods and so on. But so at the end of that civilization, some of the survivors came to North America. Hold on, we're gonna have to just hold your thoughts, okay? Because we're only starting with the Sonora Aerospace Club, right? So in the 1850s in Sonora, California, a group of inventors came together to build a flying platform type craft. And they were overseen by a group called NIMSA. So NIMSA is actually a Martian word, and later on we're going to find out that essentially the Germans settled Mars in the 1850s. There was a facility called the Lancet facility, which is actually Prussia in the 1850s, where they were made a deal with the tall whites and started, the rich and elite of Prussia began settling Mars. But, okay, so the first flight of the Ariane was June 1st, 1863, which actually Lincoln was able to witness. So, Solomon Andrews. Solomon Andrews was working with the U.S. Navy to build an electric airship in 1862. So this program later became Solar Warden. And if you have any questions, just go ahead and stop me. Okay.
Yeah, let's go from.
So we have Samuel Tillman. So he was actually the pallbearer of John Jacob Astor IV. So if you know anything about history, the Astors were in opposition to the Federal Reserve, and of course they went down in the boat, the Titanic, at the bottom of the sea. So there is an alternate timeline where we had access to the Tartarian technology. We would be similar to what Nikola Tesla wanted, we could have a Star Trek age right now. So let's go on here, on that. John Worrell Keely. So John Keely invented these dynaspheres. So dynaspheres were able to negate gravity by their spinning motion through a sympathetic vibration. So, of course, they poisoned him too. So we'll skip the Frank Readers because he's just a fictional. He wrote these fictional accounts of these flying ships. But it does appear like he did have access to these programs. So, do you have anything? Would you like to comment about any of these early type of craft?
So a lot of the crafts that I'm familiar with, they're not necessarily in physical form. So they have essentially some of these more evolved races have evolved their light body in such a way that they've mastered dimensional shifting. And that's something that we can all learn how to do through practice, and there's even government patents that basically describe a process for doing that. So a lot of the spaceships, I've had visions of the Merkaba, the human light body, basically evolving and allowing for teleportation. So that's my experience with craft.
Very good, thank you. So yeah, there's many different types of craft. What you're going to see here today is just this one example with T. Thomson Brown. So Thomas was working with Nikola Tesla and the Dyson family, the vacuum cleaners, right? So they were actually able to work on an implosion type technology which negated gravity. So that was incorporated into a program under the U.S. Navy called Project Winter Haven, which William Tompkins claims Douglas Aircraft Carrier Company, took over that project. So that's what later became Solar Warden. So we have William Winifred Schulman. So Winifred was working on the Vril flying saucers with the Germans in the 1920s and 30s. And he actually is famous for coming up with the Schumann resonance, which is like this resonance of all the lightning bolts strikes on planet Earth as it's all vibrating planet at the same time. So he was working with the U.S. Navy at the under Project Paperclip. And again, that was to bring all the Germans over to the United States. Nikola Tesla, so he was working on which later became, with the Germans, created the Die Glocke. So this was the bell, the news bell that he was working on, and it may be too small for you to read all that, but essentially he would walk into this chamber and it would spray this liquid on you and it would take away your hunger. It would also reverse age, and it could also be used for levitation purposes, which the Germans wanted to get their hands on. So do you have any comments about Nikola Tesla?
Nikola Tesla, he came from Venus, and there's a high philosophical society, very highly evolved society in Venus. So a lot of you may relate to the Venusians as well. We have different places, different galaxies that we visited, but a lot of our genius minds, that's where they come from, is from Venus. And Nikola Tesla spoke of this field of consciousness that you can tap into. He said that he wasn't fully able to penetrate it, but he was able to tap into it, and that's something we can all do, is tap into that source and download information. So we all have access to that information. It's just a matter of practice and doing the work.
Very good. So some channel sources say he was half Tartarian as well. So maybe it'd be kind of interesting if we could get somebody come up here on stage to channel Nikola Tesla for us so we can find out some more about him. Oh, one more thing. He knew the Germans wanted to kill him, so he escaped. He pulled out a copy of himself from a parallel universe, and that's what died. He went to go to Venezuela with Marconi and another inventor, and now they're actually the Cheyenne Mountain Complex. They have re-aging technology. He's still alive. So he's working with the Q group. All right, guys, so now we're going to talk about the different Reichs. So as you might have heard about the Third Reich, so this represents the Nationalist Socialist Party, the Worker Party that we later became Nazi, right? So, and of course, Nazi or NASI is a Jewish leader, so they're just copying they're just copying the Jews there. So take what you want from that. But so during the Weimar Republic, during hyperinflation, a lot of Jews were coming in here, buying up German farmland and kicking German farmers out. So the Germans were extremely resentful to these Jewish bankers. And as a result, the whole rise to nationalism and the whole thing with Hitler coming to power because they promised their solution. But so, of course, they escaped to Antarctica, and the Americans weren't able to fully take care of them. So now we have something called the Fourth Reich. So after World War II, a lot of these German scientists were brought back into the United States to continue their research. They were going down there in these underground facilities in Germany, and they were absolutely astonished at how advanced technologically the Germans were. So we barely won that war. If we waited a couple more months, they would have had more technology come online. And of course, the Germans were working on their own Heisenberg device, but most of the timelines show that he never used it. So when the Nazis invaded America, another alternate timeline, they came into Washington, D.C., and the whole East Coast and West Coast split up. But we're going to go into that just a bit. And then we also have the Fifth Reich. So Fifth Reich are the space Nazis. Now, so here's the problem with the Fifth Reich, is because of time travel, the Fifth Reich actually occurred before the Third Reich. And so, yeah. Do you have anything to comment about the Germans and the different Reichs?
So it feels that that is a part of a larger multidimensional game that's been being played out for millennia, even for millions of years. Everything in the physical reality begins in the spiritual realms. So there's been wars happening all the way back to 52 million years ago and even beyond. And everything that we're seeing here on this planet, everything that we're seeing, with World War II, with what happened to the Nazis, it's just a representation of what's going on in the spiritual realm. So it's as above, so below, and all these different wars that have happened, they're basically just the Nazis were the anchor on this planet, but it's something that's been going on for millennia.
Okay, thank you. So the high-level German SS were having orgies with the the Nordics. And so they were totally mystified by their beauty, and it was the Nordics who were promoting these racist philosophies. There is an alternate timeline where the Germans embraced the Jews, put their money in their banks, and they actually won the war. So, let's continue on here. The Vril, so we have the Thule Secret Society, and that was being, they were conducting secret meetings in this castle in the foothills of the Alps. So that was again in 1918. The Vril girls, Damen girls, Maria Orstritz, would channel Nordic and Draco communications. So now again, the Germans already settled Mars. They had access to the jump rooms, but they weren't really able to take craft over there. So now they were able to get the technology through these channeled messages on how to build electrogravitic platforms and temporal displacement technology, again, the time travel technology. So let's go to the next one. And I've already explained about the Nordics, and so let's just go on here. Nazi parallel Earth, okay? So, so Hitler embraced the Jews and didn't, put their money in their banks. Hitler also did not attack the Soviet Union. And they also had a campaign in North Africa that was very successful initially, so that really helped him out in the war later on. There was no, in this timeline, there is no interracial marriage. If you want to be having interracial marriage, you have to live in these camps. But provided you're not into that, you're pretty much provided with a mansion. And minimum wage over there is like $50 an hour. And then we have cars that come off the lot with a 50,000 mile battery, Mercedes and BMWs. So the Washington Monument was blown up, and they built a 150-foot tall spinning eagle. And DC. Okay, so we went over that. West Coast is controlled by the Japanese Empire, and Nikola Tesla was given an unlimited budget, so they embraced Tesla, unlike what we did in our timeline. Space flight. Well, let me pause here. Do you have anything else you'd like to comment about?
I just wanted to say that about Hitler is that he was on service to self-path, and he was there is such a thing as ascension on the service to self-path. That is something that it's not common, but it was created and it is possible. And you can be on the service to self-path all the way up until the 6th dimension, at which point you merge with the whole, you merge with unity consciousness. So he almost succeeded in that, but there's the imprint that he left. That's something that we're still healing from.
And he's still alive. So my sources are telling me he is an admiral in Nachtwaffen, but I think they actually had to clone him to do that. So there are a lot of Germans still alive. Paper clips down in Area 51. They're 120, 150 years old by now, so they do have reaging technology. So 1922, Thule and Vril jointly produced the JFM, and my German is just not good enough, so I'm not going to attempt to pronounce that. but it stands for Otherworld Flight Machine. So it was just an engine, and it was bench tested with a tether for 2 years. During this time, they developed the anti-gravitic and time distortion fields. So let's go on here. So we have space flight by 1936. They were already starting to go off-world, so you can see some different types of craft there. We already talked about Digalaka, where they had a spinning red Mercury that was spinning at 90,000 RPMs, and it could negate the gravity. And it could also transverse through time. Here's a drawing from the Andromedan machine. It's one of these motherships that they were working on. The Hanabu type craft, so you can see, is just a fancy looking submarine with different type of saucer shaped craft with the propulsion there on the bottom. So let's go on here. So we're going to the late 1930s. The Nazis were in contact with the Draco to get access to 100 acres on the moon. So, 20 acres, sorry. So yeah, they were building up on the Jules Verne crater, and but all places on the moon have been already claimed by other species. So in order for the Germans to get access, they had to make this treaty. So as you can see, here's some drawings of some of the different types of Draco there. They are about 9 to 12 feet tall. They tend to be very cunning, intelligent, manipulative, predatorial, and they basically view this planet as their property. So the Anunnaki claim this world, right? So we are basically considered a slave race to a lot of these other ET groups out there. And there was, of course, wars that took place in Atlantis caused it to go down to the ground, but after that, the Anunnaki claimed this planet. So now that the Germans made the Draco basically wanted to claim this planet too. So they were, and unfortunately, us humans are really not smart enough to be as comparable to them, although, we were being manipulated into that treaty, and that treaty basically dictated human trafficking to be sent off-world, as well as the Draco would determine what type of technology we would have on planet Earth. So 1939, at that point we were no longer allowed to have any kind of free energy. Of course, it was already being suppressed to begin with. So do you have anything you would like to talk about the Draco or the reptilians?
The Draco, it goes back all the way to the Lyran Wars, and that was millions and millions of years ago. So they're very ancient beings. That's not to give them power. Of course, some of them, there are positive ones, positively oriented.
Only like 5% of them, though. But even they start doing their blood rituals. They project their consciousness into a gray body, and they have orgies on the ship and then kill each other. But I know some of them are trying to get away from that. But yeah, what is it with that? I think what it is, it's just that they got infected with the black goo, and that made them more negatively aligned. But
and they, a lot of, some of us have DNA from those experiences, from the draconian worlds, and that's not something bad. That's just something that we can transform and alchemize into something that's productive that we can use for our ascension.
Great. So let's go into the early 1940s. About 300,000 personnel from Germany were secretly sent through the U-boats to Base 211 that was being built out in New Schwaben, Antarctica. So these facilities they found actually volcanic activity down there, and these caves were actually kind of mild, like pockets of warm air, and of course entrances to the hollow earth down there. But so during the war, the Germans paid off all the international bankers, and so they were now began bartering from other nations. They also created their own type of shale oil to be energy independent, and so let's go on here. So now they were ready to invade Poland. Okay, I'm good. Okay, so yeah, at the end of the war, Hitler was realizing the Allied forces would probably win that particular war, and the contingencies plan was Antarctica. And so let's continue going on here. So the Germans in Antarctica considered Hitler insane, what was going on with the Jews, but even that a lot of the Jews, the numbers, I think they were like quoting like 4 million people. Official Red Cross statistics suggest closer to maybe 150,000 Jews were killed. It was actually delousing chambers. I know it's actually extremely controversial to talk about the Holocaust, especially if this is all new to you. It's probably one of the worst topics probably to go into a debate about. But essentially, the Allied forces gathered up all the German soldiers when we came into Germany, and we placed them in concentration camps, didn't give them any food. It was like April, May, it was still very cold in Germany that period of time, and about 1.2 million people died. So those pictures that we're seeing were actually, what it's alleged is that they were actually German soldiers that we were killing. So I know Eisenhower had a thing against the Germans, but you know, it is what it is. So who was a general at that time, guys? Okay. All right, so Paperclip was bringing a lot of these Germans back to America. We realized how advanced they were. And that's in Fort Bliss there, that picture you saw. Okay, so now the Americans wanted to take care of the Germans down in Antarctica, so they created this Operation High Jump. They already heard all the rumors, and there's a lot of concern. There was a flyover over Washington, D.C. in 1954 with all the German drill craft. There's footage, you can actually check that out. But so this, of course, this operation was an utter disaster. Yeah, we sent 4,000 naval personnel, 13 huge ships, including several large airplanes and helicopters. Of course, they were claiming they were going to just map and catalog the area, but that's what the cover story is. And so yeah, after they realized so let's see here, the Germans had of course, they were working on projectile weapons, but you could not put a projectile weapon on these flying saucer craft because of the force field around the craft. So it wasn't towards the end of the war where they developed laser technology where they could actually take out. So now they had air superiority in that area. So we utterly got our asses kicked by the Germans. So Admiral Byrd brought back his journal, and it basically it talks about the hollow earth and all that. But the interest is down in the poles. Okay, so now, would you like to make a comment about any of that, the Germans in Antarctica? Or?
I have had visions of some of the underwater alien species, but I've tried to tune into that region, and there is like it's very protected psychically, so it's whatever they're doing there, it's very difficult to penetrate that protection that they've created energetically.
Right, so there are a lot of different sea bases around this planet. I've had people over the years that say that they were in the Navy and were on a submarine and they were trying to shoot down one of these magnetospheres that were covering up Atlantis. Essentially, according to Peter the Insider, who's come on my show about 50 times, Peter said that Atlantis is located on the bottom of the sea. They are breakaway from Tartaria. They are 8-9 feet tall, bigger people, and they live for 100,000 years. So we had no chance in hell ever getting into any of those domes. So it just kind of just made us look really stupid. Like, what in the world are these little humans doing to us? So of course we weren't able to get into any of those. But yeah, there's about 300 million people at the bottom of the ocean, and the domes on the outside they're smaller than what on the inside. So on the inside, it's about like the state of Texas, each dome. So yeah, it's utterly massive down there. So we have, when you look at the population of the planet, you think, well, the United States is actually one of the biggest countries in the world, but actually there are other countries that we don't know about because they want to maintain their secrecy. All right. So yeah, we have a national security state occurring. So Roswell craft just crashed, and we had a guy come on Super Solar Talk, and he said he was on that Roswell crash. The Greys picked him up from the present period, brought him back in time, and he was a young adult at that time. And so yeah, some of the Greys did die, and then the military personnel show up, and he's wearing modern clothing. It's like, oh, I'm actually from the future. Can I please speak to the president? So that was, of course, Truman at the time. And he said it took him about 2 weeks to go across the country because there wasn't, an interstate system in that period of time. And he told Truman that they were going to win the war and they were going to drop the bomb, and said, does anybody know what this is? And somebody said, well, yeah, actually, Mr. President, yeah, we do have this device, because the Manhattan Project was one of the most secretive projects that were taking place, and even the president didn't know. But so yeah, they dropped the bomb, and anyway, so we have a national security state taking place because of all the Germans from Antarctica were coming in, and there was a lot of concern. So the national security state, the NSC, was established under George Bush Sr. to persuade Congress to create a secret Gestapo police presence in the United States known as the Office of Strategic Service, or the OSS. 2 years later, in 1947, it became the CIA. Later, the Nazis at the CIA initiated Operation Mockingbird, which would be embedded with CIA agents who were in the media to control the narrative and to prevent further leaks from occurring. So I'm sure probably audience members can probably have heard something like this, Operation Mockingbird, where the media is basically lying, maybe embellishing, covering up, not telling you all the facts pertaining to the case. Would you like to comment on anything about the media or the national security state?
And that's kind of, that's the game that the controllers, the system of domination and control plays on us, is they will give us certain amounts of truth, but then they'll infuse that with all sorts of disinformation to sway us from our path and to basically get us to give our power away. So they do disclose things through movies, lots of media, lots of different ways. But that's all, it's good to open your mind to what's possible, but that everything has to pass through an inner filter of discernment. Is this information correct? Is this something that is used to control? And we can do that by bringing the consciousness down into the heart center and just asking a question of, is this information coming from a legitimate source? And if you feel the impulse of yes, then you will, that information is correct.
Thank you, Angel. I appreciate that. Okay, so guys, we are now in 1947. Operation High Jump is an utter failure, and the Germans are coming in, sneaking into the country. So Truman signed Executive Order 9835, which required all federal employees to be vetted by the FBI to test their loyalties. So this was beginning the basis of the McCarthyism era. If anybody knows a little bit about history, it was alleged they were going after those Soviets. Supposedly we had a lot of Soviet infiltrators, but in actuality, hold on guys, we had a secret agreement with the Soviet Union. We were actually friends, and we handed them nuclear secrets so they could build nuclear weapons to take care of the Germans in Antarctica. So the target was the Germans, and it actually was a serious issue. Had the public been told the Germans were down at base 211, and we actually didn't defeat them totally in World War II, there would have been outrage and public demanding to drop these nukes, the new cobalt bomb, onto base 211, and it would have actually, the timeline showed it backfired. So it destroyed burned up the whole world. But so the Nazis, or really the new Schwablanders, wanted the cabal to recognize the Germans as their own state now. And they wanted privacy, be left alone, and they also wanted this treaty. So, again, in 1949, there was actual cobalt bomb, another timeline, and we're going to explain about that in the future. What they're telling people that were taken in these 20 backs, that planet Earth was destroyed in a cobalt bomb. Here's a museum, look, you can see these artifacts of what's left over of planet Earth, and they actually went to an alternate reality, grabbed these artifacts and took pictures. So, anyway. So that's called MAD, Mutually Assured Destruction. But it was actually the Germans. They weren't trying to go after each other. Okay, so now we had a Fourth Reich takeover. The Germans finally went into a treaty with the Americans. And that was, I'll go into that later. It was, let's just go into this truce, okay? So we have a truce taking place. And they want the Germans wanted to have access to our military-industrial complex. And the Americans wanted to have access to their advanced technology, so many Germans were brought back to the United States, placed on the board of many of these large corporations. We were talking about, we're just going over to the Boeing facility just yesterday, but that would have been one of the companies, or even large college universities, and even some senators. We have like George Bush Sr., who is a representative of the Nazi side of it all. So yeah, let's go on here. The joint venture was in works, but the peace was uneasy. So in 1947, the Germans began building out their 20-acre moon base on Draco territory. And as per the lease agreement, the Germans agreed to give the Draco 225 females every year and a 25-year refusal right. So that was the technology that banned free energy on planet Earth. Okay, so we are beginning human trafficking as state-sanctioned human trafficking on this planet with this treaty. The ones who survived would have had their memories erased due to memory alternation technology, and this began a very dark, slippery slope here on planet Earth. So by 52, the Germans had lost thousands of people building out their moon base. It was roughly about a third of the population of the Antarctica. New Schwabblingers had died trying to build out facilities on the moon and Mars. And of course, what you're seeing here is a drawing by Tony Rodriguez that he commissioned of a series, which is what's left of planet Maldak in the asteroid belt. So by the 1950s, the Germans were building out other facilities like New Berlin, New Warburg, Mars, New Warburg is Ares Prima, and also a facility on Aptus, Titan, and the asteroid Ceres. Angel, do you have anything to comment about any of the off-world facilities or bases?
So from my experience, I have had a memory of being taken into the super soldier program and being injected with this serum that basically blocks you off from all of your emotions. And it makes you like the perfect killing machine. Like there's no remorse, there's no regret. And that's something that they keep doing to people, and once they come back, there's all sorts of psychological things that need to be healed, and they also have the ability to snatch a soul from the body, so they're able to take the soul, and they can then put it in a clone or in a different body, and that's such a violation of free will as well as the organic order of things. So it's something we definitely need to bring awareness to.
Yeah, thank you for that. So we have a facility on the moon which is capturing souls and forcing them back into the reincarnation cycle. Supposedly there were 3 generators and only like one of them is like barely working. So a lot of souls usually just kind of stick around the other side, don't even go back into it. And then we have grays, which are capturing souls, and they sell them on the black market to the slave trade. Do you have any comments about that?
The moon is artificial, so it was brought into the solar system, so it's not an organic structure.
Yeah, during the Lyran Wars, I think there was like 2 moons on planet Earth, and then both of them were either taken away or blown up or something. Yeah, and then we got this new artificial moon. Do you have any comments about that?
And the Earth itself has been moved multiple times, so it's been teleported into parallel realities by these multidimensional beings, and the Earth basically needed help, so that's why we're here. Mostly every person on the surface of the Earth is very extremely wise soul teacher, because we're here to restore the original order.
Okay, thank you. So let's go into some of the dark fleet bases we have on the moon of Titan. So it's here's inside a magnetosphere. There's about 40 million people in that live in New Nuremberg. So let's go on here. So we also have Paradise Mars. So basically, the story that was relayed to me through ACIO sources was that Mars was originally a tropical world with bananas and palm trees, a very favorable climate. And it was initially settled by cyborgs from our future in the 1450s. And of course, the Germans were already settling Mars, were time traveling from the 1950s and going back as well to the 1860s or 50s, and started setting up their own colonies. And the Germans were enslaving the local cyborgs that came from our distant future. And these cyborgs wanted to have their own rights similar to humans, but they were treated as sub-race. So the cyborgs decided to destroy everything that they didn't like. As a result, the cyborgs dropped a cobalt bomb on Mars in the year 1900, which decimated the environment. Prior to the year 1900, the biome on Mars was a typical tropical paradise and more comfortable than even planet Earth. So from 1900 to 1950s, the environment of Mars began to slowly mend itself, but it was still extremely harsh climate. Apparently the air is very breathable, similar to about 8,000 to 9,000 feet on planet Earth. And it gets extremely cold at night. So there's also really bad critters. We're going to go into that in just a bit. NASA is lying about the Martian atmosphere, which they claim is 96% CO2 with trace amounts of oxygen, like less than 1%. The atmosphere is actually very breathable, and the sky is a very light blue tint. So they're actually colorizing the photos to look much more red than they really should be. And to help with physical endurance, soldiers were given these biosuits that could recycle their calories. So you would need only, like, say, 100 calories a day, and also have CO2 pellets that would come out the back to help you breathe the atmosphere a little bit better, in case you need to run from some of the critters. Do you have anything you want to comment about Mars? Angel? Do you have memories? Okay. All right, so post-war Mars. We have these critters. A cricket the size of a school bus. There's different antid-like creatures, 7-foot tall spiders that can outrun a human. So it is extremely hostile environment. And so it is not really much of a paradise anymore. But
and that's I have a recollection of seeing this declassified CIA document about it was the remote viewing of Mars, and it was basically seeking like where there is life, and so it went back to exactly what you were describing, is like the luscious green landscapes and life and water, running water.
Interesting. Actually, I had somebody on the show that said he was part of that. He participated in that program. I think it might have been Jimmy Payne, but essentially, I think they said the last golden age was 500,000 years ago on Mars. But it does seem like maybe this was an alternate reality, because this portal that was opened up it connects to a wormhole that was connecting to other realities. And just right now, just maybe not try to wrap your mind around it too much. But by 1950, Mars was safe enough to be inhabited again, provided all living structures were built underground. Initially, settlements were built in the equatorial region, but electrical storms would damage all the electrical equipment. So they would either go into the lava tubes or more northern latitudes, where of course it was a lot more colder. And the headquarters of Mars Colony Corporation is located in Ares Prima. Okay, and the Mars colony, the Martian Academy is located there too. Let's go on here. During this time, the Nazis the Germans lost 17,000 troops of their own fittest and strongest people. So, that's why they had a huge personnel issue. So they needed people. So let's go into the MIC, Military Industrial Complex. The E stands for extraterrestrial. As you can see, 54, the Germans were flying their real Hannibal craft. You can kind of see it over here by behind the Capitol building there. That was 52. And secret negotiations were now being discussed on what to do to go into this joint venture. And a whole shadow government developed the MJ-12, Majestic 12, majority. So that was led under and to keep things secret from the constitutionally elected government, so it created a whole shadow government, and to handle the issues. So now finally we developed a treaty by 54. We were dropping nuclear weapons, testing nuclear weapons all over the world. But over here in Bikini Atoll, this picture shows you which is claimed by the Americans. The Germans actually are claiming this one. They detonated this near a Navy vessel and it limped back to port. But yeah, so the Germans in Antarctica finally proved that they were a nuclear superpower, and this forced the hand of the Americans to agree to go into negotiations, obviously, right? So, would you have any comments about the nuclear war or mutually assured destruction?
There have been times where it almost came to that almost came to fruition, but extraterrestrial beings were able to prevent or make the systems malfunction so that there is no mutually assured destruction.
Okay, great, thank you for that. So yeah, so the Germans were needing personnel, and the Americans were promising them personnel. So we go to this site page right here. I had 150,000 personnel, 55,000 people per year for 5-year terms. So that was again in 1955. And this was under, I think it was Operation Deep Freeze 1 and 2. So this is where you probably heard that we're not allowed to really go down to Antarctica and build a factory or set up a city because it's considered off limits. But we're not really told why. Well, it's because the Germans claimed all that territory. So part of that, there's a secret component of that treaty that dictates that the Americans are going to send about the Germans are going to pick about 55,000 people per year to send off-world. So again, 5-year terms. Now, here's the problem. Right around that time that treaty was made, blank slate technology was developed. So at the end of the 5-year term, these people would be mind wiped. And of course, they had re-aging technology and time travel technology, and they would be sent back in time. So it quickly allowed for a lot of abuses, what we call a career return program, where instead of be 5 years, it could be 20, 40, or even 60 years. So here's some different types of neuralizer technology. We have TRPC technologies. We have the Armalux device that's used by a Men in Black, a gray weapon, and also the hammer device as described by Corey Good. So my other presentation goes on more about how they work. We'll just go on here. Okay, guys, let's move on. So now we have a Cabal Nazi treaty. So how many people here have looked at a Popular Mechanics magazine and they say, oh, this new technology is coming out 3 years from now or 5 years from now, and then 5 years, you're going back like to the 1980s and you're looking at wait a minute, what happened to all this technology? Well, it's because the Germans are now on the board of directors of these companies, and they are keeping all the most advanced technology, and it is going off-world. So we're only given theory, but we're not given technology through this treaty that we had with the Germans. All right, so let's go on here. Now, never a straight answer. NASA. So yeah, we have NASA now. It was founded in 1958. They began siphoning money off into these black projects because the Cabal knew how advanced the Germans were, and now they wanted it too. So yeah, they started bringing their brightest minds, and they had their own breakaways going on too under solar warden. So DOMs were built all across the planet, and DOM stands for Deep Underground Military Bases. And that's actually a picture of the subterrane. It's a laser boring machine that melts the rock and creates a wall, and it does it all, I think 1.5 miles an hour it goes through there. So these tunnels crisscross all around the world with a supersonic train that travels at Mach 3, up to Mach 3. So, and you're not allowed to have access to it unless, I guess, you're part of the Cabal. Would you like to make any comments about the technology, I guess, that they're keeping secret from us?
Some of the technology is enhancement technology, so there's ways to basically activate your pineal gland, to give you, there's many different ways to do that naturally, but they found a way to basically shock the pineal gland into awakening, into opening, as well as all the different injections that can make you basically superhuman, activate all the abilities. So there's, all the technology that we see in science fiction already exists, like anti-gravity, all the different, there's teleportation devices, there's infinite source of energy from the 0-point field, and healing tools through scalar wave technology. That's, the med beds, they all use frequency technology, and we have access to that. There's a lot of prototypes that are currently in development on Earth, on the surface of the Earth. But you can also ask to be taken to an etheric, to be taken up on a ship and on a med bed. So you're astrally travel on the ship, and you go into the med bed and receive healing.
Okay, thank you for that. So yeah, let's go into MK Ultra. So MK Ultra was created by the CIA as a way to study the mind and how to access certain aspects of the mind, or to create a total mind control slave. And of course, the Germans had their programs, but the Cabal wanted theirs, and that was their program, their version of it. So by the 1960s, the secret space program was expanding all over, not only through the galaxy, but also through time. Jump rooms were built all over the world, and they were sending assets and resources back in time, especially to the late 1950s, early 60s. It was a big period of time when the Cabal was really trying to expand. Task groups were created to move out into the solar system, facility on Mars, also Ceres, Moon, Saturn, the Oort cloud, Kuiper belt, and also 400 years. Now we're being told it's 2,000 years, up to 2,000 years in the past. So they would go back in time and pick people up and say that we're going to die in the bubonic plague, and take them to their planet in the breakaway, or they would pick people up and take them to a volcanic world where they would mine the red mercury, and the atmosphere is extremely toxic. But they would just put the people there, and a few people would know what's really going on, and yeah. So, okay. So now we have hundreds of trillions of people are all living off-world in the breakaway. Most of it is under the protection of Nachtwaffen, even though the Americans have their own breakaway, the French, we have the Royal Space Navy, the British, even the Spanish have their own. So the Hong Long, and we have the Yozoro no Kaiushu, the Japanese version breakaway. And we're going to go into some of that. Of course, now we know Nachtwaffen stands for Dark Fleet, or really night weapons is what it translates to in German. And it's just to kind of make it sound more scary than it was. But all other ships are just really dark looking, and similar to what you see in the Star Wars carriers. So their biggest ship is about 20 miles long, and that's the Villian. So I was actually stationed on the Villian as a second class navigation asset. But so they would build a new battle cruisers. They would send people back in time about 20 years, and bam, you have a cruiser. So yeah, it doesn't take very long to build up your fleet once you have access to time travel technology. Okay, so Yozoro no Kaiushu, again, we have the Japanese breakaway. Again, it has kind of like a 1940 look to it, even though the technology is way more advanced. So we have like these computers here, so you can kind of see kind of the atmosphere, what it would look like. And so that is part of the SSB component from the Axis powers, the Japanese side of that. Okay, again, we have the Hong Long, which is the Taiwanese or the Chinese breakaway, and that stands for Red Dragons. And then we have the Valhalla station, is the headquarters of Hong Long, and it's located in orbit on Earth, in a planet in the Orion constellation, an Earth-like planet, sorry. So Valhalla station is 40 miles long and built in the 1960s. So you might have seen drawings like this about these pinwheel stations where they're spinning around creating artificial gravity, and of course we're told, oh, well, we really don't have the money for it. It was Werner von Braun. He was working on these stations. And yeah, well, because they were building it, they just didn't want you to know. The Rising Red Star is the Soviet Union breakaway, and most of their ships were absolute junk. So when the Soviet Union fell apart, most of it was absorbed by the merchant marine fleet, and the MMF is responsible for a lot of the human trafficking that takes place, the galactic slave trade out there. But apparently there are a few Soviet bases out there that are still in existence. I guess once you have free energy and replicator technology, you don't have, I guess communism might work, I suppose. Well, maybe not. Really bad. Yeah. You might get any comments about any of these breakaways, Angel?
And I would like to say that we can travel through time and space to any of those locations and observe ourselves. So we, by learning how to bilocate, we can kind of remote view what's going on there, and in doing so, we can also receive activations of memory. And I feel that every single person here is receiving that just by being in this field that's been created around this. And the Galactics have been working with us individually and this conference as a whole to awaken those memories.
All right, thank you. So New Minsk is the largest colony of the Soviet breakaway civilization, and it's the Cassavia system. About 10 million people there live inside of the dome. Okay, so we have other breakaway colonies. We have New Dresden, which is on the Kepler 22b. We have Centaurion, and there's actually multiple Centaurions. So they all are super Earths. And like in the movie Avatar, that's actually a documentary according to Jimmy Payne. The Aliens movies, the Xenomorphs, that's also a documentary. So we're already being told this in the public. Also, Star Trek Enterprise, that's actually real, but Kirk is not real, Spock is real. So New Atlantis, that's located that's a tropical world like Miami, mostly water world, and there's a white dwarf star there that causes the sun to be very bright. We have Nozoro no Kyushu, the Japanese breakaway capital of New Kyoto, located on one of the moons of Neptune. We have New Cairo, which is controlled by the ICC. Again, that stands for Interplanetary Corporate Conglomerate. I'm probably not going to have time to go into that today, but we have New Munich, which is the Vega system controlled by Darkfleet and contains a high Japanese population. And also on Typhoon is controlled by Darkfleet, and all the moons of Saturn are controlled by Darkfleet. So as you can see here, Darkfleet is definitely not out of our system. There are some people out there that are saying they're all cleared up and they're all gone, and it's just not true. I mean, yeah.
I just wanted to mention also the underground, underneath the surface of the Earth. Civilizations like the Lemurian in the city of Telos, and you can set the intention to telepathically connect with them and receive messages because they're still there in the fifth dimension, and you can receive a lot of information in terms of grid work and the ley lines and how to basically use sacred geometry to perform grid work and activate certain sacred sites on the Earth.
Thank you for that. Guys, are we good on time? What time is it?
It's 12:17, so you got maybe
5 more minutes? Okay, well, we're going to hit these jump rooms.
Time travel.
Okay, they are capable of doing time travel. They are locked in between 1920 and 2060s. So they're sending personnel back in time to try to set up a transhumanism timeline. And of course, every time they would go back into the future, it would all be different. And I believe we are pulling away from that trend. We're going to be going to something totally, by my opinion, ascending above all that. So there are about 1,000 different jump rooms within this solar system sector. And you can go to, of course, there's one actually right near us, about 1.5 miles away. But in that area, there are about 10 of them in that 10-block area. And each one of these jump rooms are about $500 million a piece. And there's thousands of personnel coming back and forth from Mars, because right near LAX is the Earth headquarters of the Mars Colony Corporation. So below us is an underground facility that stretches out for about 100 miles each direction. And there's about 200,000 people below us in the city. About 80% of them are humans. So yeah, there are some ETs coming back and forth all the time through these jump rooms. So according to Andrew Brissaggio, one of them was located at the 999 Pacific Highway facility, which is the Square Enix building. And that Square Enix produced the Final Fantasy games. But they're only located on the first floor. There's other companies inside the building. On the 8th floor is where allegedly the jump room is. And when I was in the facility yesterday, or that building, they told us that it was controlled by that particular floor was locked off for a security company called the Henry Company. So be kind of curious to see if that's a CIA front. I would not be surprised. But that particular jump room doesn't seem to be very busy. It seems like most of it's underground and other buildings nearby. So these jump rooms are called ARCs, which stands for Aeronautical Repositioning Chambers. And again, you could just call it a jump room, but when you walk into it, it looks like an elevator. So it could take you maybe 3 minutes to go to Phoenix. Maybe it take you 4 minutes to get to Washington, D.C. Or it could take you maybe 8 minutes to get you to LOC. And then 20 minutes to get to Mars, and then maybe 30 minutes to Jupiter. So yeah, and there's a lot of personnel that are coming forth through here, technology. 85% of the internet that was built up here in the LA area comes from the cybernetic labs of Mars, because they were trying to subvert our internet so they can control what we view. So.
One thing about the technology is we do have portal technology, so we can open up a portal and basically travel dimensionally, and that's also how some of these beings can come in through portals.
Okay, thank you. We've got our Stargates, so apparently that is a documentary too. We just don't have time to go into the Stargates, but here's a Nachtwaffen food replicator. They have different versions of it in the breakaway. Obviously, the officer class would get the more advanced version, and the enlisted would get basically some kind of slop come out of it, or a Tang type drink come out of it. But it is edible, apparently. So they would recycle, your poop and put it back in there. But so now we have. I'm guessing I'll have another minute. I'll go into the brain drain here. The 1960s, a lot of personnel were being pushed off into the breakaway. I've got a report that I'm going to put out. It's about Paul Getty and the Getty Museum. So it looks like the Gettys were also part of the brain drain, and a lot of these people are still alive. You have access to reaging technology. Once you have a certain amount of money, you can get access to the jump rooms. But so participants are reaged and then time travel back if they're part of these 20 back programs. But so the Germans kept about 90% of the people that were participating in these exchange programs, and a lot of people. Let's just go in there. Okay, so blank slate technology. Let me just try to get through that. I promise because this is important for you guys to know. Okay, so in the 1970s, the Cabal discovered how the Germans were using the blank slate technology. So they actually, let's see, in '79, joint KGB and CIA operation, they kidnapped one of these Antarctic Germans and got them to turn. So they were able to get one of the devices. So the treaty basically dictated, again, remember, the Germans were only allowed to have the technology. The Americans were only allowed to have theory. So this was a violation of the treaty. So now that the Cabal had access to memory erasure technology, the Germans retaliated in 1986. They destroyed the Challenger space station, shuttle, and also the cooling towers at Chernobyl. According to Jimmy Payne, they put golf balls in the air vents, so the sensors weren't working right. So now the Germans moved all their manufacturing RD off-world to Mars, the cybernetic labs, and other places. But the Germans were very worried about the cowboy president, that he would retaliate, so they gave him a broken brown paper, inside a brown paper bag, one of these broken devices that they eventually got working on one of their own units. So Okay, I guess I should probably stop. Probably. Yes? Yes? Okay. Well, thank you all for listening in. So again, this was my for Super Soldier Talk. If you want to learn more about the work I do, you could go to my Rumble. I prefer because YouTube is just anyway. Yeah, they censor too much. Angel, do you have any final comments yourself?
Thank you guys for being here and for listening. It's truly an activating experience for all of us. So I hope that the frequency carries on throughout the day, and we all get to heal and feel better. I'm also doing some healings and massage over at the end of the hall over there. And so if you would like to experience that, you're more than welcome to. And my website is angeldivinehealing.com. Thank you all for being here.
All right.
Thank you. I've got 15 books. Come over to my table over there. I don't want to take them home, so just come and get one. Thank you all.
James, you know one thing you did mention when Marina works at channelers developing, they were channeling and receiving the blueprints for these anti-gravity craft for the Nazis, right?
Yes.
You didn't mention that they intentionally did not give the Nazis the schematics to make weapons on the ships.
Oh, okay.
Because they realized how devastating that was. And I think that's kind of important because their morality prevented the Nazis from
Good job, you're on time. I don't know what
the hard thing in the world. You know? You understand what I'm saying? When they received the blueprint, when Maria Gorsuch and her channelers received blueprints,
Who was mining the
to
red
create these
mercury?
ships for the Nazis, they intentionally left out the part of how to put weapons. They just gave them the ships, no weapons.
Awful colonies.
You have in the legacy
Well, they need it for their engines, so they just put the most undesirable
Chad.
forms.
good.
They usually don't tell anything about their history, they're just enslaved, they don't know. She was mine.
Have a bio.
Life expectancy for 35 years. It's pretty shitty.
I'm going to experience your massage.
Okay, no, it's good, It's good, you're learning.
Oh, you don't have it? Yeah. Oh, are you gonna message me?
Yeah, I'm going to message you.
Okay. Do you just wanna? I don't know where my phone is. Can you just text me?
Yeah. But I need your address. You can scan this first. Randy, can you help us? Randy? How to scan?
Let me look at this. It's like some sort of image, and there was when you look at it,
yes.
there's nothing that you didn't see anything out of the ordinary.
I just messaged you.
Michelle.
Yep.
Feels like it, maybe. It's interesting if the technology of the Tesla could be picking up, if the sensors could be picking up
When you're free,
electromagnetic field or something.
check my file.
A lot of there are people who can force themselves become invisible. Anything is possible, really, and also there's an infinite number of timelines. So
Randy, you have my CV?
is possible. No, I don't know. Scan it, I can check with them.
It's okay, this is what I have right now.
Two
I would just-
it could be just a glitch in the Tesla
Stem cell,
technology.
peptides.
But it could
Yeah,
also
yeah, this one.
actually, let me see the video again.
I'll give it a shot.
See if I can send something in that time and space.
Did you listen to any of it? Or some of it?
I got some of it, and then I had to go.
I get a feeling it's
Yeah, this is my shot.
it's like it wasn't like actually,
10 minutes.
anywhere you want.
Good. Already sent it.
I graduated when something software doesn't use what it's supposed to do.
No, very simple. In the beginning, very short point.
I may not read all of it.
Yes.
And that's so if you were to try it now, do you think you would still do that, or that was just that?
I would ask Alan. I mean, not only that, but you kind of like feel it too. It's like,
I'm not sure.
So,
you know, like,
I was just doing more research into exactly how the sensors work to be able
Yeah, he was very
to,
He was supposed
you
to.
know, usually as far as I know, it picks up a certain range over the visible spectrum, like scans for a person. So it's possible that if there was something there that is something slightly off visible spectrum. So, you know, there's the visible spectrum.
At least not on today's.
There's infrared, there's all the different frequencies. So if that was
There's multiple rooms.
a spirit, like the camera may be able to pick up something in the realm that we see. Have you experienced communications, you know, outside of that experience?
at that point, you're like, what are you gonna do, bro? Come out and use this pattern. Let me use
You have the pen drive?
Let me
Can I put the pen drive?
Yeah, it's right
You
here.
better tell the
It was a really big company that got bought out.
in the mouse.
McDonald Douglas, McDonald Douglas, but then you got out of your dad worked for CA.
Sounds like a shapeshifter.
Did you already take her?
Yeah.
Didn't he work for McDonald Douglas?
Yeah, let's go and plug in, because it
Okay.
should just pop up.
Switch until you go fly to Area 51.
What did he do with Howard Hughes?
They radar.
Which one?
You receive communications.
You got two PowerPoints on here.
Yes.
Yes. Stem cells theory or the precision?
Precision.
It's kind of like that movie You Tell the Future. It's a great gift to have, you know, we can help. You know, as far as the dream states, we can ask to connect with receive communications from the and that's a group of higher dimensional beings that are in 13, 14, and 15 dimensions. So they're part of the founders of this reality. So it goes up to the 12th dimension, and that's a lot of schools of thought. That's the highest dimension that they accept, they know. I'm doing a talk on Sunday.
Dr. Chan.
Okay.
So you gotta manually do it, we don't have a clicker.
I prefer a mouse. If you have mouse, a mouse. They have it yesterday.
I don't know how to.
No, they have a.
Yeah, there is no clicker. Okay, I don't have a clicker, that's all I have. I know, I would prefer that as well.
Yeah, so you
but I
can
don't.
move around,
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
Traveling throughout the whole body.
I may need to.
Okay. All right. Okay.
So you're okay using this?